mean, but I think there's something to be said about having a comfort in yourself that you can be disagreeable,
Hmm.
not for the sake of being disagreeable, of course, but if someone brings something up, there's a tact and nuance to in a conversation with people that you don't even really know at a networking event to be able to say, oh, interesting that you feel that way. I have a slightly different perspective. Are you open to hearing it?
Yeah.
Then
Welcome to LoveliEsteem. I'm Lovely, the auntie you always wanted, the sister girlfriend you didn't know you needed, honey. You got to have self love to have self esteem. And here we know that God don't make no junk. So we're going to sit down, talk about it, and see how we can fix it, baby. Let's do it. Hey guys, this is Lovely with LoveliEsteem, and welcome back to the season finale of the Healing Through Conversations podcast. Season 4 is a wrap, baby. More than a woman. I had some great people on this podcast, and today our last guest is actually my first entrepreneurista guest, Miss Stephanie Thoma. She is an author, she is a singer-songwriter, and she's the host of her own podcast, Holistic Ambition. She has a book out called Confident Introvert. And I've always enjoyed our conversations because we can have serious conversations that we find joy in. We have such a unique take to friendships and what we understand and how we want to really just embrace all of these different sections of our lives. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with Stephanie last time, and I can't wait to talk to her again. So enjoy the podcast. Hey guys, this is Lovely with LoveliEsteem, and welcome back to the finale of the Healing Through Conversations podcast season 4. I was actually excited to have Stephanie be the final guest because she was the first entrepreneur to ever book and be a part of my podcast. And it helped me so much with the relationships that I've built in entrepreneurship because it takes one person to like step out and then everybody else starts feeling comfortable. And I felt like you blessed me with that interview because it was just a really great conversation about friendship and losing friends, and really gaining yourself and figuring out where you want to be so that you can attract those people. And I felt like this is a perfect way to end the podcast. So thank you so much for coming on. As we did before, please introduce yourself.
hello, and thank you for that intro. I didn't realize the impact, and I'm so happy that we're speaking again. And yeah, for anyone who's new to my work, hello, my name is Stephanie Thoma, and I'm an author of a couple of books now, Confident Introvert and Not That Sweet. I'm also a singer-songwriter for fun. I build out community, and the through line with everything that I do has to do with helping you feel more connected to yourself and others. I also am in the coaching space, focusing on life, leadership, and career. So that is a little bit about me to start.
She said that's a little bit like so we go to sleep at about 2 and we wake up about 4. Keep on writing, keep on
I
writing.
mean, I don't know. I believe in getting 9 hours of sleep a night.
So when I talked about taking a nap, you really understood where I was coming
Oh,
from.
yes. Sleep. Sleep is a necessary ingredient to all
It
this.
Sleep makes me so happy. Before we go too far, because we were off camera having a conversation, and then she mentioned, "Oh, I just snuck up and wrote a song." I'm like, "Hello, that is not what we talked about. How did we sneak up and write a song? How did we do that?"
Well, so I feel like so many of us, I'll speak for myself, have these creative outlets that maybe we don't always share with other people. So in my case, I've been singing since I was very little, before I could probably actually speak words. I was singing and writing songs, even just like making up songs, probably when I was 5.
Mm.
And thankfully I've gotten better since then. It has improved the quality of the music. So yeah, I have done a few different collaborations over the years with other people that are, making music. Maybe they do background for me, play the piano or something like that, or remix a song. But this song that I'm releasing October 29th, 2024 on Spotify is called Villainize. And it basically started out as a poem, and then um, I was having a call with my therapist, and she was like, "Oh, that poem, that sounds like it could actually be a song." because, she knows about my singer-songwriter ways. And then when the call ended, all of a sudden, melody came to me and I recorded it. And that's a song that's going to be released October 29th. And, it's all about being a woman, being a girl in society, and how sometimes when you choose yourself, that can be vilified, but how there are multiple sides to every story. And I'm so thankful for stories that have come out showing other perspectives like Cruella and Maleficent, where sometimes when we have a sense of agency and power, that can be construed as bad or evil or wrong, when
Mhm.
really sometimes the intentionality is a lot different, or things just simply are not always as they appear. And especially as women in business, I think that there's this piece to address, which is how do we have feminine power and creativity
Mm.
and respect? And
Mhm.
I think we can have it all, but sometimes we can't have it all in everyone's minds.
So does this connect with the book?
I
I
mean,
was listening. I was trying to pay attention just a little
okay, so the book is called Not That Sweet. So it is also a commentary on identity and labels that we're given or labels that we internalize and things outside of ourselves that we tell ourselves, okay, this makes me a good person. This makes me a bad person. I should amplify this part out in the world. I should hide this part of myself and tuck it away. So it's an exploration of of identity through the lens of my personal experience.
bit. See, I was like, let me put the context clues together because there's a lot
You did
happening right now. It's so much happening. And I'm excited for
it.
you because I really believe that art heals and it doesn't matter what the art is. And it's so unique to you that that's what makes it great, right? Like if you love to paint, the way you paint is so different than other people. If you're a makeup artist, if you are a pianist, it just depends on the thing that really soothes you. And I love how poetry really turns into music. It always does. It's just always so connected in that way. Okay. Look at you. See, the last time we spoke, were really promoting Confident Introvert.
But an introvert, that one over there. Yeah, that was my first book,
Yep, you
all
were
about
really
human
promoting
connection,
that, and you were still doing hosting the Holistic Ambition.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, I still do have that. It's yeah, it's I'm wrapping up season two actually in October of 2024, and then we'll see about what season three looks like the following year. Yeah,
See?
redefining. Oh yeah, if you're cheating, you're like, what is she talking about? So holistic ambition is redefining what it means to be successful in career, business, and life. So I interview people that are doing things a little bit differently, and they're telling their stories and sharing examples of how to uh yeah, have a sense of holistic success where you're not choosing money over wellness or wellness over money, where you get to, in essence, have it all, or at least all that is important to you.
See, and I'm keeping up. I be trying to stay. It's a lot of lives out here. It's a lot of lives, and I really like to support and root for. Like, I love when people are like just dancing to their own beat, living a life that makes them feel fulfilled. Because I think that, like you said just a few seconds ago, like my idea of wealth is not through money. My idea of wealth is very much through knowledge. It's very much through the connections that you make. And it's holistic for me when you're not in this, like when you're not in a room and people still can talk about you and your present tense self. I love that because so many times we get stuck in spaces where people only want to talk about us based off of who they thought we should be, not for who we are. And I know that when we spoke last, that's kind of what we were really digging into, this idea of having friendships or platonic friendships and having them accept you for who you are and you learning to accept them for who they are. And sometimes grieving the loss of the connection because maybe you walked a different path and it doesn't stay the same.
Right. And And that is life, whether it be platonic friendships, romantic relationships, family member relationships, through death, through, well, physical death or the death of what tied you and bonded you together. Uh, I do believe that some people, and we can say this and we can hear this, but I want to reframe this. So many of us have probably heard that, oh, some people are a lesson or some people are here for a season. And that can kind of sound nice. But if you are grieving a connection, then what I actually have found some peace in is this reframe of some people on their life path being on this particular journey to make bonds that are in essence made to be broken, not in this cynical way, but because the lesson was learned. And maybe you're on this life path and you have many lessons that you're learning, or, just really trusting what comes and what goes. And if you are finding that you're facing a lot of rejection, or that you're finding a lot of opportunities for you to say, no, thank you, this is not for me,
Mm-hmm.
that could be reinforcing just a different life path where some people, they're born into families that they feel are a great fit for them. And then they make friends when they're 5 years old and they're set for life. Other people, like myself, do things differently than that, where you're kind of going out as a scavenger, like, okay, where are my people? And you just need to be sure that you are your person first and foremost.
Mm.
Because if you're being a chameleon and emphasizing parts of yourself here, dimming parts of yourself there, and it makes sense, you do this a little bit in some contexts, but if it's kind of extreme and major, then when you do begin to feel more comfortable with yourself and let more of yourself shine and show, then there are some people that may feel like, wait a second,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not used to those sarcastic jokes, or whatever it is that you were kind of dimming down a little bit because in the past other people haven't, well, received it very well. you know and I just hosted a panel last night in person. It's called Women Creating in Real Life Community. And so I was speaking with a few different community builders in Austin, where I'm currently based. And one of the themes that came up was, as a builder of community, it's not necessarily that everyone in the community is your best friend,
Mm-hmm.
but there's this ability to connect with a wide variety of people, but also know not everyone's going to want to go to your event. Some people are going to be like, oh, that person, no thanks. And
Yeah.
that's fine too. But what it comes down to is having a few really secure, deep friendships that you nurture, where you have very open, transparent communication, where you know where you stand. So
Mm-hmm.
then you get to be more resilient when other people misunderstand you because you have that steady base.
I, so many things, so many things. This is what our conversation was last time. And I love that because I'm a true believer in quality of friendship over quantity. I don't need a lot of people to love me. I need the people who love me to love me.
Mm.
And that makes going into the world and failing forward so much easier because you know you can come back to your tribe, your home base. And that home base looks so very different depending on who you are. As you stated previously, your blood doesn't always determine bond. That's not how it always works. And we have a lot of spaces where either trauma happened or just disagreements. Maybe we just grew out of each other. Maybe the path that I am supposed to walk doesn't include certain people, certain places, and certain things. So then it looks like there's a rift when there's no rift there. I still want you to do well, but it's just from afar because I
Mm.
know that our spirits don't blend together, they don't bond together well. And I love that you are helping build communities because I think that that's why I love having conversations because there are lots of times when we don't get to sit down and talk and you never know who you're going to hit it off with. You never know who's going to be that person for you because if you just base things off of looks or commonality, I mean, we're all a toss. But having that sense of, oh, so we're here in this moment together. Well, what's your name? What do you like? What, me too. Okay. let's see what we can do with that. And sometimes it's just for the night. Other times it's like, hello, a year later, Stephanie, what are you doing? And still being able to have good kinship together, a nice conversation together. And I think that some people get stuck on longevity
Mm.
versus really just bonding when it's your turn and then learning how to let that person go. And then when they come back, just reconnecting where they are presently, because we're both have grown since we had our last conversation.
Right. And that actually brings up a great point where I do believe, let's say if you have a few really close friends and you find that one is pulling away, I do think it can be helpful to be super transparent and say something like, hey, so, in a friendship, especially for our long distance friendships as adults, right? If we've traveled around, if we've moved, and let's say you were closer with someone when you could physically see them in person, once a week, once a month, and then you realize, oh, wow, it's actually been a long time. I think, Brene Brown, clear as kind, if you can articulate not disappointment, but excitement for, hey, I love being connected with you. And I feel like we haven't really been connected, for the past
Mm-hmm.
6 months, 9 months, whatever it is. And to propose something like, I feel the most connected with you as one of my close friends in my inner circle when we have a phone call every month, every quarter, whatever it is for you. And it doesn't mean you need to be like, okay, get out the spreadsheets, like calendar invites, 3 to 6 months in advance. It doesn't have to be like that, but even just to put language and words to it
Mm-hmm.
is so powerful because then you get to hear on the other side someone either saying, yes, I value this connection too. And I would love to speak with you definitely at least once a month, definitely at least once a quarter. Oh my goodness, I can't believe we let it go this long. Or you might hear, actually, I'm okay with the distance. Actually, I don't think we need to plan another call.
Yes,
So you get your clarity when you are clear with yourself and you articulate the thing. And, to your point, sometimes you let things go
mhm.
and they come back, they ebb and flow. And in my view, with acquaintances, that's fine. With your normal friendships that kind of always have come and gone, that's fine. But it is important to have standards for those close ties, where it's not like you walking around like, oh, this is my best friend. It's important that there's almost an agreement. And sometimes it grows over time and sometimes it's unspoken. There are so many nuances.
Yes, so good. It brought up two things that I thought about. So I have two best friends. My one best friend, we see each other probably like once a month. My other best friend she's been my best friend since 10th grade. I'm almost 50. So it's been a long time. And we hardly see each other. But it's because I had to learn how to accept where she is in her life. She checks in with me. We talk every once in a while verbally, but everything is kind of through text or through a meme or through a video of love, support, understanding, if ever anyone needs anything. But that's the way she communicates. That's how life has allowed her to communicate. So, also understanding that the communication styles are going to be different depending on the friend. It varies depending on the situations that they're in, health, relationships, children, if they're single and they're really going to school, getting a master's, all these different things change the way communication looks. So like don't get hung up on communication style as much as Stephanie said, like knowing that this is the expectations for this relationship. Like like you or me, I am you, we are together. Okay. So like we're gonna have to make sure that we stay connected in some way. And I realized I'm the friend that I have to check myself because when you are content with yourself, you can get lost within friendships. When you are the friend that is an introvert and very happy with being an introvert, it's not you're not an introvert based off of trauma. Like you enjoy sitting down and reading books. You enjoy being in the house. You may enjoy writing or creating, especially in the entrepreneurial space. You have these pockets of weeks where you could not go for not talking to anybody. And then you have to
Mhm.
say, hey, I haven't spoken to anyone. Like, really, get up. Hey, how are you? Are you okay? I love you. I want you to know that I love you. And I do that on purpose. And I know sometimes it probably comes off, they're like, hey, you good? Is everything fine? Nobody's hurt. Nobody's hurt. I just needed to say that because I thought about you. And before the thought goes away,
Mm.
let me say it. And I do that. I check myself because I am the friend that like disappears off the earth and then shows back up. So how's everybody doing? You know?
Well, and that's a part of having secure attachment where ideally, the love and the care has been communicated. So then it's not taken personally when
Yeah.
you take your space, right? Where sometimes I think it's good to be communicative about that. And other times, like with your friend from 10th grade, hopefully by now she knows. Like that's what you do sometimes. And there's this acceptance
Yes.
versus trying to get someone, that's why I believe it should be a dialogue. It's this dance of, hey, this is what I need from the friendship to feel fulfilled. But also, hey, what do you want to feel
Mm-hmm.
fulfilled? And do we have the same shared meaning of this friendship? And, it's not necessarily, it's so interesting to compare this with romantic relationships where, you know, stereotypically, there is, a defining of the relationship. And then, it can be a bit more clear cut. There's an anniversary. It's like, I
Yeah.
like to celebrate anniversaries with friends, if you can pinpoint when you met, which is
Yeah.
fine. But yeah, there's a lot more gray area with our friendships.
And I'm sorry. And I was going to say, I actually find friendships to be more intimate than relationships a lot of the times because your friendships, depending on who you are, just in your communication style, your friendships, especially those ultra close best friends, sister friends, tribes, they know so much more about you,
Mm,
so much more about you, and in the way that no other person, no male or female, will ever get to explain, like understand. And because of that, I think we have this imagined connection instead of, like you said, the verbal connection, saying, hey, you mean something to me. This relationship is highly important to me. And even if I'm not around or if I'm not communicating the way you need, let me know so I
mhm,
can I can work on it, because maybe I can't give you 100% because of what's happening right now. We could at least save the date. Like you said, we can't do 6 months out. Like, let's not do that. But let's save a date where we at least talk on the phone for 15 minutes to catch up. Maybe we can do a FaceTime and we cook at the same time. Like, just having
mhm,
that connection. Or I'll come to your house and maybe I can watch the baby while you go take a shower because I know you haven't been able to do that. Or maybe you both are single and you watch a favorite movie, whatever that thing is. But understanding that, as for me, just friendship means so much. Like, if I say that you're my friend, I care about you from the top of the longest hair to the toe. And I want you to be okay. I want you to feel comfortable with me when you are in the depths of hell. And I want you to feel comfortable with me when you're elated and you are touching the fingers of heaven. Like, I want you to be either way. And I think that sometimes it doesn't come out that way because life is so busy that we can only say, hello, how are you doing? Everything's good. I love you. I'll talk to you later. Like, I make sure I say I love you when I get off the phone with my best friends because I don't want that to be the last time I speak to them and I
mm,
didn't say it. But
mhm.
it took work. It took work.
Yeah, no, and that's so real to be very intentional with communication and how sometimes, yeah, we're going so fast, a mile a minute, and to say like, "Oh, great to see you, love you, catch up soon," sometimes that's fine, but also to slow down and, I will say with my long distance friendships, with at least at this current point in time, a lot of my friendships are longer distance from my travels, from moving around a few times in recent years. And if we sometimes it ends up being like a call marathon where we're on the phone for like 4 hours and just like catching each other up, downloading. But I found that even voice notes can be really
Hmm.
useful where, a few times a month you think of them and you're like, oh, hey, I just thought of you. And then it's like I call it, we call it our mini podcast episodes with a few friends. And, it might even be daily where we communicate back and forth, like 10 minutes voice note here, 10-minute voice note there, and it goes on for a few days. And then maybe we don't talk again or check in again for another couple months. But that I think that's part of being secure, um,
Hmm.
not blindly secure and feeling like, oh, all my friendships are great when they're actually not.
When they're falling
But
apart. Yes.
Right, right. So that's why I think, having that initial conversation and then whatever they say, you trust what they say and move forward securely in the world, knowing like, okay, these are my friends. And then of course, if actions show differently, then that's another conversation to be had.
Yeah.
But yeah, typically, there's so many quotes around worrying and how, things that like never happened, that never will happen. So I like to take people at their word.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it turns out that they have a change of heart, or if it turns out that what they said actually wasn't their truth, then I'm able to have compassion for that, but also it resonates a little bit less. I really value a sense of clarity, but there's patient, love is kind. So it's this stance. It's this balance of being able to meet people where they're at and to know that some seasons will be closer or further away. And you could say one thing that gives someone the ick, or vice versa. They could say
Yeah.
one thing, and you need to identify, is this worth the whole friendship? Is this worth throwing the baby out with the bathwater?
Yeah.
Or can we accept differences in our friends?
Yes. And I think that for me, that was like a big not recently, but becoming an adult and realizing that we were all going to go our separate ways and have these completely different lives. And when you first go back to like a reunion, like a high school reunion, and it's always like certain people never change. Certain people are so different that you don't even recognize who they are. And then you have like the people kind of in the middle trying to figure out like, I didn't even really want to come to the reunion because I didn't know if I was going to be comfortable. I'm one of those people. Like, you coming? I don't know. It's a lot of people out there. I don't know what's happening. But then reconnecting with a friendship that you may have had in high school, you may have had in college, even if like an old colleague, and you realize, oh, I know why I liked you. Okay, all right. So let's see if we can build from where we are now because I may be different. And maybe, like you said earlier, maybe my sarcastic joke that I think is hilarious, maybe my dark humor that I'm cackling about, you may not like that now. Like, you may be like, no, that's too dark for me. Or I'm just in a different place. And I think that was a hard thing for me to understand at first because when you're young, you just make the assumption that as you grow up, you stay the same
Mm.
until you just become old. But I'm old now. No, I'm not. I'm older now.
There.
Let's just say that. Let's say that I am older now. And it is a beautiful thing to be able to change your mind, to redirect, to rediscover, and to recreate who you are and how you accept your relationships because maybe you created a relationship out of a trauma bond and that's not where you are anymore. You've healed. That relationship is going to feel like it has a deficit because the elements that it took to create that relationship and to fuel that relationship changes as each one of you heals or if you don't heal. So realizing that's a thing. Or if you created a relationship from a cup half full and now that person may be in a deficit within their own lives, it changes the way the relationship balances out. But like you said, if you can say, hey, I know we're different right now, but what can we do to stabilize this relationship until we can meet back up where we were before, or even in a better place.
Right. And actually, that brings up the point of when you yourself or the friend is going through a hard time
Mm-hmm.
and having those healthy boundaries. And because I think that there is this trope in friendship of dropping everything and being there, which at times it is important to do that. However, it also depends on how chronic the need is and what your bandwidth is. So there's something to be said for before trauma dumping and saying, oh my gosh, this is what I'm going through. Uh, I think some people in friendship feel secure, like, okay, they already know all my stuff. So now whenever I'm triggered, I can call them and tell them about the trigger and this and that, where a more emotionally healthy dynamic would be to, you know, I don't know, have some coping mechanisms of your own, journaling,
Yes.
whatever you need to do, somatic exercises, but then, still reach out to the friend, but instead of diving right into the story to ask,
Mm.
hey, I'm going through a hard time right now. Do you have the capacity to be there for me?
Yes.
And then maybe they can say, actually, I had a really horrible day and no, not today, but maybe tomorrow. And the key in this follow-up is to ideally not just say no, period. Because then it's like, hold on. To be able to say, okay, like I can help you and here's how. Maybe it's a different time, maybe it's a shorter time frame.
Hmm.
And yeah, but and to be able to communicate expectations so that that trust can be maintained.
Yes. Or also what I've learned, especially with one of my best friends, we have our own phrase that we say before anything crazy comes out. Like, hey, tell me a joke. Okay, I know you're having a bad day. We may not want to talk about the bad day. We might just want to joke so we can like decompress from the moment because I think sometimes when you, depending on, you may have woken up on the wrong side of the bed that day, your hormones could be thrown off. You could have had a really bad day with a client, whatever those things are, and that intense emotion that you have right there to like complain about it may just need a pivot. You may just need a moment to think about it, and you'll realize, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, or I want to handle this from a different direction. Right. But that's where sometimes friendship comes in. And also giving people, your friendships patience and grace to bow out. Like, I'm not, this isn't the blessing that I can give you today. Like, maybe Tiffany's the person you should call today, or maybe Stephanie's the person you should call today. Not to hurt your feelings, but because we are a group of people who talk to each other, it seems like it's more in their wheelhouse. Because I think that in friendship, every if everybody's trying to be the chief in the house, you forget that everybody has a specialty. Some people are really good, super emotional. Some people are very good with logic. Some people are just good when they can be silent with you and sit down. Other people can meet your energy. They can match your energy. But when you expect every single friend to be able to handle every single part of you, you kind of eliminate the other friends who may be able to step in and say, "Hey, I heard you were going through this. Let's talk about it." And that's what I love about having like a really good tribe, because then you get to meet different people in different spaces and use your unique niche to talk to your friends instead of having to be the everything, because that can become draining.
Yeah, and to your point, I'd say, let's say there's one friend in the friend group that is a really good problem solver, to go to them with all your problems and no one else, that also is an unhealthy dynamic. So
Mm-hmm.
there comes a time when something like therapy, coaching comes into play where there isn't the expectation of reciprocity,
Mm-hmm.
where if a friendship were to be executed in that way, it would not work.
Yeah.
But it can work in that capacity. And that's just, I know that some people, and myself included at times, right, have had this fear of, oh my gosh, is this going to be too much for this friend? And
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's intimacy building where you're able to identify, like, oh, hey, this is something that I haven't told anyone, or this is something that I'm currently moving through, and they're there for you in that moment. But then if that becomes the crux of the dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, is that really what friendship is? I think it's a mix, right, of being able to go deep and talk about issues, but then also, especially, let's say if you're going through something perpetual, chronic, to bring it up every time you see them is actually not really fueling the quality of that friendship, I would say.
I agree with you. And but that's where I'm a firm believer. Like, a lot of the coaching that I do is to work on the person. I work on the person. I build the person, they build the brand. Because I think that if you aren't in a healthy place, you're not going to create a healthy business. If you aren't in a healthy place, you're not going to be a fully functional employee or employer. Like, we, even in friendship. So like, you may be going to the problem solver on a consistent basis, but that person also has problems. And when they feel like they can't go to anybody because they are the one who's supposed to know the expectation of this hierarchy, a throne that they never asked to be put on,
Hmm.
but because sometimes we ourselves have this internal need to be a people pleaser, that we forget to say, hey, that topic, I don't even know how to help you with that. Like, sometimes you have to admit that you're not great at that topic. It's not a space for you, or I love you and I want to see you well, but maybe can we call in such and such? Or like you said, have you considered therapy? Or if you don't feel comfortable with therapy, there are a lot of warm lines out there that you can call and talk to, where they may be able to give you some resources to help you out. Or, hey, I was looking online and I saw these resources. It's kind of text messages, but I feel like this will work well for you in the situation that you're going through. Because when people keep coming, I was one of those people. I was always fixing things. And then I realized that like I just had a straw in my mouth in water and I'm just like just trying to get air in.
Mm,
But I didn't want anybody to, I couldn't take that mask off because I didn't know how to take that mask off. And that was like a part of my healing journey to learn how only not to take the mask off, but to walk in a room as my full self and learn who I really trusted to give my information to, learn who trusted me really to give that information to versus just having conversations because we wanted to like kill the silence.
yeah, quality over quantity. And it's like not everyone is entitled to our stories. But then that kind of, I feel like now I can even tie in, especially for those that are maybe interested in being more vulnerable on a public scale, on social media, through a book,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
music, whatever it is, whatever medium. Then it can almost feel like you're getting ready to walk into a room and air your dirty laundry to a room of people where some people care, some people don't. Some people are mad that about what you're talking about. Other people, are just like voyeuristic and just watching out
Yes.
of curiosity, where it's almost like there needs to be a reframe of I am creating this content with this intention of connecting with this type of person and putting it out there with laser focus and vision on them where, okay, let's say there are trolls, let's say there are people that don't agree with something that you put out there. It could be about self-care. That can even be divisive, where it's
Which
like,
is crazy.
how dare you care about yourself that much?
I'm like, why do I have to die because I care about myself? This is crazy.
Right. Well, I mean, there's this perpetuation in some relationships where, hey, if you care about me, then you'll suffer a little bit. And there's some people that are addicted to that dynamic.
Ooh,
And when you try to break out of it, then people will be offended.
did you touch that was a hot topic. I need a button. This should have just blew up because the amount of, I say all the time, why are you making yourself into the victim? Right? Like it was a really good, it was a video of a gentleman talking, and he said, if you are a believer in a higher power, and you don't believe that you have greatness in you, do you really believe? And I feel like that in so many spaces because, as you said, when you are a person who, one, the strength that takes to create a video, upload that video, and leave the video on there, hmm, that's not a weak person, babes. I don't care who you are, that's not a weak person. But to be so laser focused on friendship or self-care, connection, infidelity, relationships, whatever that thing is, and to want to share it with the world because you know that you aren't the only one. Like the reason why it resonates with you so much and it stays in your mind is because you keep hearing conversations. Like it's that energy that you're bringing into your life. And you're like, who's going to talk about it first? Who's going to stand up and say, I don't feel comfortable in front of all of you. However, this is my truth. Somebody in here resonates with that. Even if they don't say anything, you'll get an email. You'll have somebody stop you in the hallway. You'll get a text message or a DM that's like, I really connected with what you said. And you're like, but you could have said something during the meeting. I wouldn't have felt so crazy standing there by myself. But they're like, I'm not brave enough. And I'm like,
Mm,
you were brave is reaching back out to me to tell me that you're going through that and hoping that I have some resources to give you. And I love that that's a space that you've put yourself in, Steph, because I think that a lot of the times when you are a confident introvert, I am plugging and not at the
mhm.
same time, but when you're a confident introvert, people can label you as being stuck up. They can label you as being antisocial. They can label you as all of these things when you just really know yourself. Like, I know how much time I can take to stay at this party. I know how much energy I can give you at this brunch. I know who I can be around that's going to give you the best version of me and who's not going to get the best version of me. That kind of confidence throws a lot of people off because why can't you just bend? Why can't you just listen? Why can't you just stay? Why do you have to always be so strong? And it's like, do you know how much it takes to say I can't stay at this party longer than 2 hours? Because you in your head, you know you're going to offend somebody. Like it's the way it works. So like, mm, mm,
People need to not take it personally, but maybe, one step at a time. It just focused on, I mean, yeah, being able to communicate a boundary. Then, there are labels beyond the ones that you shared, like being difficult,
mhm, mhm,
for having a preference, for having an opinion, and not even that something, it's not like it's dictating other people's behavior. It's having the audacity to own the agency of how you spend your time in your life.
mhm. So much to say, I'm just not gonna say it. But yes, I I agree with you because I think that that's a huge thing, especially as a woman, when you start walking in your light, when you start really standing firm on your boundaries, when you are a person who does not feel the need to act and play along, you get labeled in so many different ways. And a lot of the times it comes from other women because they
Mm.
don't understand why you aren't doing what they do because maybe they just haven't found their space yet, or maybe that is the space that they enjoy and it's just not the space that you enjoy. Or as you said, you may be labeled by men as being difficult because why aren't you thrilled that I'm here? Why aren't you placating to me and my advances? Why aren't you giggling at my jokes? And you're like, because you're not funny, sir. Because I don't want to be here, ma'am. This is just isn't my thing. There are so many other people laughing. Why are you focused on me? Just focus on the people who make you happy. Focus on the people who make you happy, people. It makes such a big difference, not the one person who didn't laugh. And I think that we as humans sometimes get stuck on the one person who didn't laugh versus the whole audience is laughing, but you can only see the one person who didn't catch the joke. But you don't know where people are in their lives. Some people come, especially with networking, and I'm sure you can speak on it a whole lot more since this is what you do. Sometimes when people come to networking events, their whole selves aren't there. They're there because they made the appointment and they want to show up, but maybe whatever happened in their day doesn't allow them to fully be there. And you miss that opportunity to connect with them in a way that made you feel comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. What does it mean to bring your full self to work, to the networking event? I remember when I worked in corporate, I would wear bright colored pants and bright colored tops, and that was cited as a reason that I was bringing my whole self to work. And it's like, okay, like that is one form of expression. Like, okay, like I like bright colors, and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna go ahead and wear them, even if other people are wearing neutrals. That's fine. I didn't really think much of it, but I do think that the way that we dress and the way that we carry
Oh,
ourselves,
absolutely.
it can make a difference,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also beyond that, obviously. And I would say, what I encourage from the perspective of dressing is whatever helps you feel a little bolder. And some people get concerned that, oh, that's going to deter people. Like, who does that person think they are? When, okay, some people might think that that's their own stuff, that they're,
Mm-hmm.
if they think that. But then if you're wearing something unique or colorful, then it's almost like an invitation for people to come up to you and ask about that thing or to compliment or whatever it is, but you're not wearing it for that purpose. You're wearing it because you've identified, ooh, I like this.
Yeah.
So you're walking into the room like that. And then, beyond that, we were touching on people pleasing earlier, how there can be this tendency to read the room and be on the silent side, nod when it's appropriate. And maybe there are certain contexts where that's more fitting or appropriate, especially for an introvert that maybe isn't wanting to walk into a space and be like, nope, that's wrong, don't like that, you should do it this way, where it's like, hold on, maybe they want to gather more data, more
Yeah.
information,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, go ahead and and observe a bit while being open. Like open body posture can help, making eye contact with people around the room, having a friendly smile and nod, that sort of thing. But also,
Checking yourself to make sure that you're smiling. Because
mm,
I think sometimes we think we're smiling.
and it's like, and maybe it's here, but not here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but I think there's something to be said about having a comfort in yourself that you can be disagreeable,
Hmm.
not for the sake of being disagreeable, of course, but if someone brings something up, there's a tact and nuance to in a conversation with people that you don't even really know at a networking event to be able to say, oh, interesting that you feel that way. I have a slightly different perspective. Are you open to hearing it?
Yeah.
Then I appreciate getting the opt-in personally. And it's not about getting permission from other people to speak your truth. What it's actually about is not wasting your breath on people that are not open to what you have to say.
Hmm. Absolutely. And also having
Yeah.
the option to just keep scrolling. I
Mhm.
really believe, especially nowadays, in creating the algorithm for your life, being very steadfast in the energy that you want to bring into your life. And yes, sometimes it's going to be disturbed because we're supposed to. Challenges happen so that we can learn more about ourselves. Sometimes the information that we download we may feel like that's not necessary for me, but later on, when you start really thinking about it, it struck a nerve, and that's why it's still there. But understanding that you can say respectfully, I'm gonna go get an appetizer and walk away instead of standing and arguing with somebody for the sake of using your voice. Because I think that sometimes we get stuck in spaces like that where you feel like you need to walk in and overpower the room to prove that I'm really here, I've done a thing, and then you go home and you're like, I could have not done that. Like I really could have not done that.
I mean, it's so nuanced, but yeah, when it comes to, I mean, this is a misconception of speaking your truth and being empowered, where, like raising your voice and yelling and basically telling people, hey, like this is what I believe, like do this now. I mean, maybe there are certain contexts where it's like people are fed up and you go ahead and do that, but in a networking context, it's
Yeah.
rarely, you don't really need to
Yeah.
get to that level.
Yeah.
But that's why, something that I shifted, and I'll go back to this again to emphasize it. I used to freely share my thoughts and opinions without even thinking about it. And then maybe some people like it, some people don't. It's fine, whatever. But when you get to a place of wanting to really connect with people and you're a bit more intentional about
Hmm.
your first impression and your speech, it can be powerful to have that opt-in and to get people to say, yes, I want to hear that perspective. And, you know, so then you're not necessarily in an echo chamber of people that have all of the same, and you get to decide for yourself, what are your non-negotiable values? And then what are the values that you're kind of like on the fence about, or, they're not things that you stand for in the core of your life purpose. Maybe those are the kinds of conversations that you want to have a little bit more. But I would say even the things that is that you feel really strongly about, to be able to hear another perspective and to be able to offer,
Hmm.
in a non-confrontational way, like, oh, hey, this is not being too attached to the belief.
Yes. 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 Not in realizing one of the things that I started really working on in like 2020, the end of 2022 into 2023, like coming out of the whole COVID scare factor. And yes, it was traumatic and all the things. I'm not knocking that, but like learning how to reacclimate yourself back into society in a full way. Knowing that you had to go to the market, you had to go to work, you had to go into spaces with other people, is that I had to realize that a lot of conversations that we have when we're arguing, my first question is it going to change anything in the next 5 minutes? Is it going to change? Am I changing anybody's minds in the next 5 minutes? And I don't mean that in a facetious way. It's like sometimes you are stuck in your way. You are your barrier and you're trying to get your point across, but you know you can see when a person is dead in the eyes when they're
Mhm.
not going to accept it, but you still feel like
Mm,
you need to beat that wall. And I'm
yeah.
like, but why are we doing this? Like, What
Mhm.
point are you trying to make? Or as you said before, and I'm all about articulating your feelings, wants, needs, and desires. When you're trying to articulate yourself, are you speaking in their language? Because sometimes it's a comprehension thing. If you're a double major, ultra educated, science based, STEM based conversationalist, having a conversation with somebody who never says anything but yep, nope,
Mm.
okay. And you're just throwing out the words. It's not that they can't comprehend the words. It's not the language they speak. It's too many words, it's too strong, it's too loud, it may be too much for that person. And I find that that's sometimes, even in friendships, where you're like when a person, you're like, what just happened? Like, what would, what would you like me to, are you asking me if we should go to this party or not? Yes, I will go with you to the party. Like you just walk off because you're like, that was a lie. I don't know what she said. I don't know. Did we
Well,
record
checking
it?
in. Yeah, so it's a
Yeah.
true dialogue and
Yeah.
not one person speaking, the other person being like, "What are you talking about? What do you really mean?"
Yeah, no. And I enjoy having conversations with you because I love that we both seem to be logical thinkers that have built an emotion and learn how to really accept a lot of the emotion that are attached to the words that we use. Like we've learned how to harness and really embrace the emotions attached to the words that we're doing. We're trying to be very intentional with the words that we use. We're trying to be intentional with the friendships that we have. And I think some of that has to do with maturity and getting older. I know for me, a lot of it is because I moved so much as a young kid that my friendships, I try to hold on to the ones that have stuck around because my address was not always the same address. It just wasn't a thing there. But I love having conversations with you because it feels warm, but it also feels like we get to have these really great back and forth ideas about what friendship really means, what relationships and partnerships really mean, what community really means. And I absolutely thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me. I know it's always a pleasure to get to go deep and then have fun in the process. That's what it's
Yeah.
all about.
Yeah. So come on, give us all the things. If we want to find you, we want to get a book, we want the books,
Oh,
S,
yeah.
people, plurals, the song, plurals, because we know it's another song coming out. I just know it. Anyway, go ahead.
Yes. So I would say the one-stop shop is to go to stephaniethoma.com, STEPHANIETHOMA, and you can sign up for my newsletter there. There's a banner at the top or at the bottom of the page. And then once a week, you'll get the latest and greatest. Also, I'll be sharing, the song Villainize will be out in October on Spotify, and the book Not That Sweet will be out on Amazon in November. So if you want to go directly to the source, those are places. But yeah, social media, my handle is Stephanie M. Toma, pretty much everywhere.
I love it. Yay. I really, really enjoy talking to you. It's fascinating and funny at the same time because it's interesting to meet a person who thinks like you, but we are different fonts. And I like that. I like it a lot. I really enjoy it.
Yes. Lovely. Thank you for the invitation again. And hey, who knows what we'll talk about next time. But yeah, so grateful to be in the finale and, excited to see everything that you do next
Thank
and
you so
celebrating what
much.
you've already done.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So you be good. Enjoy the rest of your day. I know you said you have an event after this. We got it. We got
Get
this.
zone.
Have a good one.
Thank you, you too.
Stephanie is, I just so enjoy having conversations. I told you I was going to be good. I told you it was going to be good. I enjoy having conversations with Stephanie. I just feel comfortable, but I feel challenged. And I love that. I love that we have this really good back and forth conversation about connections and friendships, platonic friendships, relationships, partnerships, what it looks like to be in communities when you are building tribes it's nothing like it when you find the right people in your life. This has been such a beautiful journey. I am elated and tired all at the same time. I hope you guys enjoyed this season for real, for real. And remember, we want to learn how to articulate our feelings, wants, needs, and desires so that we can better advocate for the people that we love. Y'all be good. I'll see y'all next season. Bye. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you found some healing, connection, and joy. Until next time, bye, loves.